When the plant is mature and it's ready to reproduce, it begins a process of making seeds. Sometimes that requires the plants creating a stalk, like this carrot plant did. This one was left in the ground, and now it's beginning its process of making seeds. It's growing this long fibrous stalk, and at the top it made a blossom, and when the blossom gets pollinated, it makes seeds. The blossom is there because it attracts pollinators, and we need pollinators to produce seeds. See, these blossoms here are going to get pollinated. Here's a giant blossom. Actually, it's not one blossom, but you might be surprised to know that each and every single little one of these is its own flower, and each of these is its own flower. There's two different kinds of flowers on here. So each blossom that gets pollinated makes a seed. So that's why there's one seed under every blossom. When a blossom or a flower gets pollinated, it produces a fruit right behind the blossom. See, this is growing, we'll pull it off. This is growing right out of where the blossom was. The blossom was here and it fell off because the fruit grew right behind it, and this is the part that was attached to the stem. Here's a blossom that got pollinated, and it's producing a brand new little eggplant right here behind where the blossom had been. There are many blossoms that are tasty and edible, and we eat a lot of different blossoms, like squash blossoms, nasturtium blossoms, or nasturtium flowers. Every single sunflower seed that you see developing here is because one of these little flowers got pollinated. If it didn't get pollinated, you'll see that there's some empty spots in here and no seed will grow. And that's true for all of the plants with blossoms. A plant will put a blossom out, they might put a lot of blossoms out, and the ones that don't get pollinated, the blossom just falls off and the plant moves on and puts its energy into the blossoms that did get pollinated and pours all of its energy into making a fruit or a pod there. Because inside that fruit or pod, it's going to then develop its seeds. Seeds usually develop inside a fruit or a pod. See, here are the seeds right in the middle. These seeds are right in the middle. There's a membrane holding them all together. Here are the seeds inside of here, all inside here, growing. There's a lot of seeds. So if each seed can make one plant, imagine how many plants, how many cantaloupe plants this one cantaloupe can give you. There's multiple cantaloupes on one vine. So one vine, if you grow one vine that came from one seed, it'll make a bunch of cantaloupes, and each cantaloupe has this many seeds. Seeds develop inside of the fruit or pod, and fruits and pods are one of our very favorite ways to eat plants. When the seeds have fully developed inside of a fruit or a pod and they're on the plant will release them. This is called seed dispersal. It's dispersing its seeds in hopes that each little seed can find its way and get planted in the ground and grow its own plant. Seed dispersal can occur in a lot of different ways. There's so many creative ways that plants will disperse their seeds, and we can talk about that in another lesson. But depending on the design of the plant, sometimes the plant will release them and they'll fly through the air. Sometimes the plant will have a spur on them so that an animal will catch one on its fur and then it will take it somewhere and the seed will plant itself somewhere else. Many plants will die after they've dispersed their seeds. And when they die, they decompose. You see, this plant's already starting to die. It's already made its seeds. They fall out. Can you see them falling out as I'm doing that? Look, there's carrot seeds all over me. So once they've dispersed their seeds, the plant itself will start wilting and dying. You see it's already getting some dead branches here, and it will decompose and then add nutrients back into the soil. The nutrients in the soil then will contribute new nutrients for the next plants that grow in that soil. Now let's take another look at some of these plants and see what we can identify on here. With these roots, when they're in the ground, they uptake water into the plant, and hopefully that water is filled with nutrients that are in the soil, and it will bring them up. The roots will suck them up into the plant. Once nutrient-filled water has come up into the plant, it goes up through the stalk or the stem, and it goes out into the branches and the leaves. Something called xylem, which is like a transportation system on the inside of the stem, brings those nutrients up and distributes them to the different parts of the plant. As we kind of touched on before, leaves, when you have a leaf here on your plant, it will capture the sunlight from the sun on the surface of the leaf and also CO2, and it will convert that into energy right in the leaf, and it stores it as sugar inside the leaves, like we talked about before, and it uses that energy to grow. The flowers are put out by the plant to attract pollinators, and when pollinators come and pollinate the plant, it can grow its seeds. So when you open up a flower or a blossom, you peel these parts off, these are the petals, you can see this is where the pollen is on the plant. Now all of the different plants have them in a slightly different place. This is a very similar type of design, but look at this design, or this design. Here are the seeds developing on the inside of a plant, as we already looked at. There's all different seeds developing here. But here are the seeds that are already off the plant. They've been picked, they're dried, they're ready to plant, all different kinds of seeds. Every plant makes its own unique seed, setting it apart from all other plants. Everything that this sunflower seed has inside of it is completely different from everything that this squash seed has inside of it. This has all the information to turn this seed into a sunflower, and this has all the information it needs to turn this seed into a squash. And not just any kind of squash, this kind. So these seeds are very specific. And as you can see here in this little sample tray, there's a big variety. And this is only about 8 different kinds of seeds. And remember, we talked about there being 400,000 different kinds of plants on the planet. Plants are so diverse, but they do share some basic features, as we've seen here today. So now you can go out in your home or your neighborhood and look at plants in a different way. See if you can identify parts, whether it's a blossom, a leaf, a stem, a root, a fruit, a flower, and see what you can identify. Thank you for joining me for our first LiveWell Kids Garden lesson of the year. And I'll see you next time when we talk about planting a cool season garden. Bye-bye.